MVP and I, we've been talking offline before the episode started, and we're talking a little bit about each other's new dietary plans, if you will, so to say. Like, it may seem as a surprise to a lot of people, but not to us, that we're getting a lot older. Things are starting to not bend and twist as they used to. So, and then plus with doctor's advice, it's been kind of hinted to us either discreetly or very strongly that we need to start paying attention to what we're doing, what we're eating, our movements and stuff like that. So needless to say, we're at that age now where we got to mind our personal maintenance, if that makes any sort of sense.
Yeah, and by some we mean medical, doctors. We mean medical professionals and our spouses.
Yes,
the doctors say, "Hey, we suggest you lose some weight, change your diet up, this and that." And from the spouse side, are you really going to eat that, you fat ass?
Yes.
So one's a medical professional, one's encouraging you from a different angle.
Yes. And man, and I've joked about it too, but my wife, 9, she actually has slapped food out of my hand because she tells me, like, you're not supposed to be eating that. You know, you're not supposed to be eating that. You piece of shit, you. I mean, she probably says it a little bit more colorful than how I said it, but the message gets pointed across. I'm like, but I just got that. As I'm staring at it on the ground like a crybaby child, like,
You don't understand what kind of a day it was.
Right. And I'm a tattletale on myself a little bit, and MVP might be able to say the same thing. Is when you're in a situation where it's very stressful, right? It's either one of those cases where you starve yourself or you binge eat like everything in sight. I've had bits and pieces of both. Like some days I forget what food is, and other days like you can't put enough in front of my face. And it probably has something to do too with how bad my day went and some of the TV shows I watched in the midst of it that kind of encouraged me to do it. So, example is I've been watching a lot of TV shows where there's been a lot of food in the mix. Like they're either eating big buffet style stuff, or one of the opening scenes is they're in a restaurant or some shit like that. And I don't know if that's intentional or if that's just how my brain received it, but I'm like, I need to binge eat something now. Like I got to stuff my face. That's probably that probably doesn't help either. So
did you happen to notice that feeling though? Like we had mentioned before, but when it's like, 1 o'clock, 1:30 to 2, somewhere in there, and you're sitting there going, God, I'm dizzy, like I'm drunk. What's going on here? And then you realize you haven't eaten yet.
Yep.
And then so you're like, well, it's already so close to going home. I'm not going to eat now. And then by the time you get home, that's when you're like, all right, the binge session's on.
Yep. Most definitely. And I've done that plenty of times too, especially depending on how hectic the workday is. I forget that I even brought lunch. Like it's one of those, like the deadlines need to get hit or whatever the task is. Like, okay, I got to do this. Let me just take an extra 10 minutes. Then 10 minutes turns into 30 minutes, turns into 2 hours. Next thing you know, it's almost quitting time and I haven't even touched my lunch or whatever the heck it was I brought to work that day. And sometimes I think that's on purpose for some places where like they tell you to stop what you're doing to go have a lunch. Because if there wasn't some kind of hey, you need to go eat lunch now, that I would totally forget that I even brought lunch, if that makes any sort of sense to anybody.
No, yeah, it does. Because I can tell you, like, all right, as soon as I finish this meeting, I'm going to go grab something to eat, and then it'll be on to the next meeting or phone call or whatever the case is, or this one task that I've been putting off for a week, right? I'm finally going to get time to do it. The minute you leave that meeting, somebody pulls you aside, the phone rings, an email comes through, and next thing you know, it's 3 PM.
Yep. So this is something that, again, like we said, like we've been receiving a lot of doctorly advice, sometimes from spousal advice saying that, hey, you need to tone it down a little bit. You need to relax what you're doing, get some more movement in, and be better about what the stuff you're putting in your system. This is also kind of like when we got this little education about your inner biome, if anyone's ever heard of that before. Like the stuff that's rolling around in your gut has its own ecosystem, more or less, and whatever you're eating or whatever you're not eating, it kind of cultivates the type of environment in your system. Example, like say if you eat a lot of greasy food, you're gonna have the air quotes bad ecosystem where like it's kind of like the smog cover in Los Angeles kind of thing, and your entire system's like struggling to breathe, even though they're making it, but it's not the best line. And then you have like the clear skies, green pastures, and all this other stuff if you eat right, and then everything's hunky dory and everything works the way it should. What we personally have learned, especially when it comes to that kind of system or that kind of eating, is how you cultivate the ecosystem in your stomach kind of determines how you feel throughout the day, if that makes any sort of sense to anybody. We're not no dietitian by any means, but this is just kind of stuff that just been taught to us. We're kind of repeating it back for everyone to listen to. And it was a eye opener for us. I'm like, wait, so the stuff that you eat and how you take care of yourself actually determines how good or bad you feel? Huh. Weird. And case example is like, say, like if you eat a lot of greasy foods or you drink a lot of alcohol, it cultivates your system to want more of that stuff. But since they're very greasy and they're very fatty, say, for lack of a better word, fatty, it makes your body work more to process it or store more of it. And it takes a while for it to work its way through if you're not burning it off all the time. And having all that stuff, having all that extra load, just storing in your system, not being used, it kind of makes you very lethargic and want to keep doing it. And then next thing you know, you start coming into you're more stress eating, you're more not lax, but you're more lethargic, you're less energetic to do things, you find less and less interest or enthusiasm in stuff, things of that nature. Again, like we're no dietitian here, but this is the kind of stuff that that's been taught to us. And if you really want to learn more of this stuff, we highly suggest looking up a dietitian and kind of figure out where your inner biome, your inner ecosystem is sitting, so you know what you can and shouldn't do. But for us, for instance, one of the things that we've been doing for some time now is like overnight oats, where like we get some oats, like whole oats, steel cut, whichever the case may be, whichever floats your boat. Have it in.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember which one. At one point, I at a gym I was going to, there's a lady there. She was a fitness competition model, but she had mentioned something that was like steel cut or rolled or better. Yeah. And I want to say she said rolled oats, and I don't remember why. Something nutrient wise, you know, it was. She said it was better for you. Anyways, before we jump into the overnight oats thing, you had mentioned something a few minutes back about how, you know, kind of what you eat determines how good you feel. Yeah. But what a lot of people don't understand is your gut health.
Yes.
How important. I mean, you have bacteria, good bacteria in your gut, and you have some bad bacteria too. But, you know, the bad bacteria feeds off the sugars and the bad fats and all that other kind of stuff. So it's good to get a probiotic in you. I would highly suggest getting on a vitamin routine, especially for you know, us maintainers who live our lives at nighttime. I mean, it's so important. It's so important to get your vitamins in you and get some vitamin D, right? Mm-hmm. The best way to get vitamin D is from the sun. But again, if you're a gremlin like the rest of us have been, seeing the sun sometimes is almost non-existent.
Yep.
So get some vitamin D in you, and that'll help as well. But you know, like Six said, especially if you work on the road, right? If you've ever been an AOG person or you work long hours, you go for what's available and open when you get off work. And you know, I am the number one perpetrator of this, especially when I was, you know, on the road, be down in Texas, and every day you get up and you were running by 10 a.m. and you get back to your hotel by 3 a.m. Well, what's the only thing open at 3 a.m.? Whataburger. You know what I mean? And you go there and you get the number 4. And that's the, I think it was the bacon jalapeno, if I remember right. That's pathetic, but I remember that. Some of their spicy ketchup for the fries, and go to town, drink a large sweet tea, and then rack out for 4 or 5 hours.
Right.
You know, it gets harder as you get older too, right? And Six and I aren't old by any stretch of the word, although our bodies may feel and tell us differently. But again, do I feel this way because you know, I'm just getting older? No, I still eat terribly from time to time, more than I should, and it just takes so much longer to recover though than a you know, a 22-year-old body does. But so get yourself a hefty vitamin regimen and try to get some probiotics for your gut. If you can, get the probiotics that you keep in the refrigerator. Again, understand that being on the road, that might be a little difficult. So anything's better than nothing. But if you have the ability, get the ones that are the live probiotics, that those pills you have to keep in the fridge to keep the probiotics fresh. Those seem to have had the biggest significance of a positive impact on myself.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you know, I take maybe 6 vitamins a day, and I feel like I need to switch it up a little bit and modify some things. But my right hand, she has a hefty vitamin. I mean, she takes 16 pills a day.
Shoo.
But you know what? She's never sick. I mean, I've never once seen her sick or even remotely acted like she was sick. So she's robust, built to withstand the apocalypse when it comes to immune system and the body.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things too, sorry to cut you off again, Six, is, you know, we've talked about food a little bit, and we're going to get into, you know, our most recent kind of trend we've got into, but you need to learn your body type.
Yes.
Mesomorphic. It's mesomorphic, endomorphic, and oh my gosh,
I think it's ectomorphic.
Yeah. So I'm not a expert on these by any stretch of the word, but I know for myself, I am mesomorphic. So what does that mean? I'm built like a caveman. I'm behind in the evolutionary build. My tendons are about, and this has been backed up with x-rays, my tendons are about 2.5 times the thickness of somebody who's endo or ectomorphic. Built to take a beating, you know,
Mm-hmm.
hairier, shorter, whatever you want to say. But I'm a caveman essentially. But because of that, a high protein diet, sort of maybe like a paleo style diet where it's no dairy, nuts, berries, and meat, kind of a hunter gatherer, so to speak. But you know, I'm a sucker for cheese. So
same here.
You know what
I'm
I mean?
definitely a sucker for cheese, man.
So I don't follow it strictly, but that would be better. And you know, since Six has met me, I was pretty big when he and I met. Over that time, I probably lost 60 to 70 pounds, and then we split apart again as our careers went, and like we said, the stress gets to you. I'm a stress eater. I eat my emotions, and I have ballooned back out. You know, I'll admit it on here. I'm about 300 pounds right now. Pretty hefty. Have to sleep with a CPAP machine just so I don't die in my sleep. So take care of yourselves, everyone.
Yep.
Learn from my mistakes.
Yep. And I'm glad that MVP mentioned that about body types and whatnot, because certain individuals, especially for playing on culture, for instance, right? Like say if you're Asian or if you're African American, like actually from Africa and stuff like that, your body type plus the way your culture eats has a direct effect. Examples like say for Asians, right? They all for the most part they look relatively skinny, right? But you'll see skinny Asians who get heart attacks. Like, how the heck did this guy get a heart attack? He's freaking like $150 and he's like 5'9". He's $150, 5'9". He got a heart attack. How the hell did that happen? Right? It's all because of that body type, as MVP mentioned. Like how your body type plus your culture, how that processes the food that you're getting and the type of food you're getting, especially with culture wise, that plays a huge factor. I was gonna say risk, but it plays a huge factor. My example is I don't look anywhere near as fat as I do. Like you see me like, oh, he's probably like a buck 60 or buck 70. I'm probably like closer to 220 to be honest. If
no
I'm
way.
I'm serious. I swear, man.
There's no
I swear.
You just blew my mind right now. There's no way.
I promise.
220.
I'm like I'm probably closer to 210 now that I've started eating better. But yeah, I'm well past 200 pounds.
Oh my God, you just blew my mind. I would have you wear it well.
Yep.
You wear it very well.
It's all in the stomach, man.
But are you one of those that also one of those that can lose weight relatively quick if you just change a few things?
Probably. I want to say probably, but I mean, like I said, I haven't really tried. But now that I have my doctor screaming at me, plus my right hand 9, like you need to get right, or you're not gonna make it past. You're gonna see your first heart attack probably in the next 10 years. Like, oh shit. Is that serious? Like, yeah. Like, oh shit. All right. Well, I don't want to fucking call it quits in the next 10 years. So, as MVP mentioned, like, take care of yourself, and you're gonna, especially as you get older, things don't work as good as they used to, or things don't process as fast as they used to. So, take care of yourself now before your body starts making decisions for you, and then you really have not a lot to stand on. Especially like certain foods, if you've already built habits around them. My vice was sweets and cheese and red meats, and being told to cut a lot of that out was kind of a slap in the face. So I feel all of that, man.
Well, that's very interesting though, but that ties back into that, that body type. But so for me, I guess, instead of eating more red meats, I should probably focus on bison,
yes,
or elk, or fish.
Mm-hmm.
But God, or chicken.
Yep.
Something along those lines. But my gosh, as we've all seen in the grocery stores, those other things are super expensive.
Yeah, especially when you were mentioning couscous, for instance. Right now. I've seen couscous, but I'm the idiot who never knew what couscous was, right? Or at least I saw it, but I didn't know that it was called that. I just thought it was breadcrumbs and turkey stuffing. And then as MVP were talking offline, he's like, oh yeah, couscous. Like, oh, that's why it's only sold in the holidays, or it's very popular in the holidays, because it's freaking expensive. Holy shit. Like, I never would have guessed. I mean, but we were talking a little bit ago too about certain foods that like are really good for you. Like flaxseed is definitely good for you. What was the other stuff you mentioned offline?
Yeah, so chia seeds. So we were getting ready to jump into our overnight oats discussion.
Okay.
So it'd be a good time to time with that. So for me recently, one thing I've tried to do, and this is also my lazy side tying in with it, right? What can I put together last minute? And I can do it the night before, and it'll last through the next day. And when I get up, I can get 10 more minutes of sleep in the morning, and then open the fridge, grab this, and run out the door. Yeah. So get a mason jar, put let's see here, two whole cups of oats, and then I'll put like all 100% organic Greek yogurt. And there's good probiotics in there, right? Yes, it's some milk and things possibly, but it's not a lot. So one of the small cups of Greek yogurt, and you can get them at the grocery store. They're like a single serving size one.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's a little bit more expensive than if you bought the large tub and portioned it out. So we're learning as we're going here, but put that in there. I put maybe a tablespoon worth of agave syrup, but all 100% organic, all natural agave syrup, which adds a little bit of a sweetener, but not so much sugar like regular honey would have. Now you can go with regular honey too if it's a tablespoon's worth you're using. It's got other added benefits besides being a little bit higher in sugar. So I wouldn't I wouldn't get too hung up on that. And maybe you're asking me, well, why are you using the agave over the honey? Well, that's just what I had in the house at the time. Here goes my lazy side again. And so beyond that, I'll put a tablespoon's worth of chia seeds, a tablespoon's worth of flax seed, and then all natural like oat milk or almond milk. Now you're saying, geez, MVP, what a biggity bitch using all that organic stuff and not regular milk. Well, just so you know, I am slightly lactose intolerant. So to save anybody who might be around me that day, I would go with those. And then what do I put it all in the mason jar, put the lid on, shake it up real good, set it in the fridge overnight to settle. And the next day, it's pretty filling, but it doesn't make you feel like super gross and bloated. And it's a little bit sweet to it as well, but not overly sweet. Oh, and I forgot to throw like blueberries and strawberries in there too, where you can slice up an apple, put it in there. I mean, you can put whatever fruit you want. I'm just a fan of the mixed berries, the darker berries, just because they're high in antioxidants. That's why I like to go with them. That's
very true. And I've done this myself as well. Minus the agave syrup. And the only reason why I haven't is because I don't have any. But I've done pretty much all of that. And I've used oat milk. What I found using oat milk, I'm not lactose intolerant by any means, but I found that when you use oat milk, it actually digests better, if that makes any sort of sense to anybody. Because and it's less aggressive on your stomach, especially people with like ulcers or who get acid indigestion a lot. Oat milk is like leagues ahead of regular milk, in whatever shape it takes. So I can attest to this. Again, we're not dietitian or anything, but this works really good for us, and it's kind of the things that we've been told to start paying attention to. It's really filling, to be honest. Like you maybe even get like if you even use like a quarter shaker of it, it's pretty filling. So I mean, I can only imagine if you use like a half cup or even a full shaker, that'll probably kill like 3 meals right there if you really want to get with it. Also like stuff like high in fiber, like a lot of green vegetables like cucumbers, lettuce, stuff like that. It doesn't have too much with calories, but it really fills your stomach. I was a huge opponent against vegetables. That's just because I'm a loser like that. I ate mostly junk food as a kid, so like vegetables wasn't my thing. But now I'm slowly starting to get into it, and it's kind of one of those like. At first, I was like forcing it down myself or forcing it down down to my stomach, but I was amazed like just how filling it is. Just eating vegetables right off by itself. So I'm a fan.
Well, so that's interesting you say that. So my mother-in-law is she's pretty diabetic, but you know, like any good Hispanic woman, the day starts with coffee and pan dulce.
Yep.
All the things that the coffee would have creamer and sugar. So all the things a diabetic should eat, right? That's what she was eating. But you know, since my father-in-law's passing, I think she's had a kind of a change on in life or whatever. So every day now, right, it'll be a green smoothie that she'll make, and it's got. You just mentioned some of the stuff, Six. It's got cucumber. It has kale. I think there was like a Granny Smith apple or part of one in there. There's like some limes. There's some agave in it. There's a few other things. I know I'm missing some of the ingredients, but it's like this real vibrant green. I'm going to call it John Deere green smoothie, and she drinks one of those every day, and it's had massive effects on her. Like she doesn't even have to take a quarter of the pills that she used to take, you know? So there are some added benefits to that. Now, you know, we're saying all this stuff and I get it. People listen at home like, hey, that's great, Six and MVP, but God almighty, I'm out the door at 4 a.m. and I might not get home until 7 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
I sympathize with you. I'm right there. That's why I'm still a bloated train wreck. It's tough to maintain. And then when you got kids and a family and you want to go out on the weekends and do stuff, and you know, sometimes the the options just aren't there, or they're there, but they just don't seem appealing at all.
Yep.
So and something you just touched on a minute ago, right? Talk about the cost of food and everything. You said, well, I grew up eating a bunch of junk food as a kid, but I think we all did. It's just part of being a kid. But junk food's so much cheaper. I mean, you've got kids, I've got kids. When you go to the store, you could buy a whole cart full of health food stuff, and it's $500. Or you could have 2 carts worth of chips and sugary cereals and processed meats and everything else, and it's $250. But you got 2 carts worth.
Yep.
It's crazy to me that vegetables and fruits and lean meats are just so expensive. But that's kind of the market we live in, I suppose.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that, because I just did a bunch of grocery shopping today, and it blew my mind how much money I spent. I think I went through 3 different places, and I spent close to $200 at each place. Like, just outrageous, man. And we can debate about why that is and stuff like that, but for the most part, that's part of the discouragement, right? It's like, well, it costs a lot to eat healthy. I mean, shy of you growing this stuff yourself, and I think that's kind of where a lot of people shine as far as their home gardens, or if they have like farms and stuff like that. That's where they really benefit.
Chickens, yeah.
But that's just the way we're living right now. And MVP touched on it, and I'll sympathize as well. Like, sometimes, you just don't have the time to do it. You don't have the time to do it. You don't have the money to do it. So like your only natural option is to time to fucking, pop a cigarette and fucking chug a Monster or something like that. Right. That's like your cheapest option available. And it's for the most part filling, but you do like 8 to 10 years of that stuff. And next, your blood is like half sugar crystals and grease.
And your veins are so your arteries and veins are so narrow that they're not pushing a high volume of blood anymore, but they do have high pressure in there. So if you get cut, you could probably tear through metal with the pressure coming out of your veins.
Yes, that's another thing too. Yeah,
we can just like,
yep. And then that's exactly what happened to me, right? Like, there were times too when the doctors would ask me like, "Hey, like, did you drink coffee before you came here?" I'm like, "No, why?" It's like, "Oh, because your blood pressure is pretty high, friend." Like, if I were to say like you're like a AP student and you're supposed to be like low, man. you need to shoot for that lower grade blood pressure, not the 5.0 student GPA blood pressure. But it's one of those things that we just got to deal with. So if there's a means, if you even have time to it, or if you have 30 minutes, you can make yourself a quick meal or a couple of meals to survive you throughout the week.
And when you're on the road, if you can somehow, again, I'm right there with you. I sympathize. If you can somehow plan ahead for while you're on the road, or get yourself a cooler and some ice, and figure out some options to, better things to eat while you're on the road, please make those steps. Because I know, like I said, it's easy to go for that Whataburger at 3 a.m. Denny's are open 24/7. So when it's the middle of the night and you're hungry and you're on your way to the next job, just to stop there at the diner real quick and grab a burger and scarf it down. You think to yourself, well, I'm going to get this because I don't know what I'm going to eat again. So I want to get something in me that's going to last for a while. And then you say, well, I could get a salad at one of those places. But if you look at the caloric count on many of the salads and different establishments, they're damn near more than the burgers are, just because, I don't know, the dressing or whatever the case. But
yeah, you're absolutely.
I sympathize with you. It's tough to do.
It really is. But then it also something you got to ask yourself, like, do you want to pay for it now, or do you want to pay for it later, right? And just FYI, like, as you postpone it to the later side of the house, it becomes harder and harder to manage. Case in point is us, especially with the way we're having to deal with it. So like, the choices are kind of being made for us, and It's rough. I'm just gonna say it's rough.
I mean, I never thought I'd be sleeping with a CPAP machine, and here I am. I almost can't survive without it. Right.
Yeah.
Now, best sleep I've ever had in years. So I'm super glad I got it. And even if I did lose all this weight, I might continue using it just because it's like forced induction.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, and you know, new people in the career, right? We're talking about cost, say, you know, well, and again, I've been there with you. I can either go spend $40 for some apples, a little bit of protein shake, and some kale, or I can spend 4 for $4 at Wendy's. Well, I'm new in the industry, and I'm on a tight budget, so 4 for $4 it is.
Right.
You know, again, not belittling you, not chastising you, but like Six said, pay for it now or pay for it later.
Mm-hmm.
Now, maybe you're young and you're able to hit the gym for 2 or 3 hours every day, so you treat yourself every once in a while. Kudos to you. I was there at one time, and I hope to get there again. Maybe not 2 to 3 hours, but if I can at least get an hour or something in every day, so be it. And my excuse is, well, I don't have the time. When do I have the time? The reality of it is, there's time there if you make time for it. I just choose not to. I do, in my mind, the higher priority items, and then I let that fall off in the back, because I look at that as well, as soon as I knock out these higher priority things, then that'll move up the list, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's poor excuses. I'm calling myself out here. It's me being lazy and not holding myself accountable to myself. And, you know, even at, you know, Christmas time here, we just passed, it was my mom came to visit, and she looked at me, and I'm almost 100% gray in the hair and the beard now, and overweight. And she went, her first words when she had seen me, and we hadn't seen each other in a couple of years, was, "Wow, you look rough." So she, you know, over that time we were visiting, she goes, "Look, I understand all these things are important, but your health's got to be prioritized in there somewhere. You got to do something, because otherwise you're going to, you know, Six and I are going to end up stroking out together at a relatively young age, and who's going to be there to look after our kids?"
Very true.
You gotta prioritize yourself. And I know how difficult that can be, right? As a young professional aspiring to better themselves. So you devote and give everything you have to your profession. But something gives, right? And oftentimes it's you giving yourself up. And and then you suffer the consequences. And I am suffering those now.
Mm-hmm. Same here. And I'll call myself on it too. Like, I did exactly as MVP did. Like, oh, I got these higher priority things that needs to happen. I'll do it when I have time. It's like, oh, as long as I can get 10 minutes of movement or something like that, you know, like something really small and minuscule. Like, well, at least I did something. But oftentimes I kind of push that to the side in favor of something like a little bit more pressing, whatever that is. And it's usually the health that kind of goes to the wayside, because, oh, well, like, I'll deal with it when I deal with it, kind of thing. And that time has come a lot sooner than I thought it would. And here I am dealing with it, or I have to now at this point, because as MVP has said very sternly, like, the last thing I need is to stroke out at some point in time, and we don't have anything set up and ready for the people that we leave behind. So sorry we got dark there for a second, but it's the fact. And especially for us as aircraft maintenance, like, our health is usually one of the most neglected thing there is, especially the stuff that we're around, the pace that we go around with, and just the overall culture of, like, we'll just shotgun a monster and freaking pound it and then drag a cigarette and move on with your life, you know?
Sleeping salads are for the weak.
Yep.
Nicotine and caffeine are what heroes are made of, right?
Yep.
And that works for you through your 20s.
Yep. I can attest.
For you through your 20s.
I can
but
attest.
eventually it does catch up with you. My best advice that I could give to anybody is prepping, right? Meal prepping. Just if you can take Sunday afternoon, evening, morning, or whatever time works best for you in your schedule, and spend that time just getting your food together through the week. Now, I do it where I make one thing and I'll eat it for 5 days in a row. Pretty boring, but it was what was when I was. I should get back when I was doing that meal prepping. I eat the same thing every day for 5 days in a row just because it's cheaper and easier to do it that way for me. But if you're going to do one of those green shakes that we were talking about or the overnight oats, get everything that you need for that shake portioned out, put them in Ziploc bags, and throw it in the freezer. And every morning, have your blender already sitting on the counter. Throw it in there, turn it on, put on your shoes, come back, pour it into a glass, out the door, drink it on the way to work or something. Just whatever you can do to maintain. Now, again, those of us and you who work on the road, a little bit more difficult to do. But hey, I've watched guys travel with blenders and microwaves in their vans. So, I guess if you have that ability and you're willing to get yourself a little $60 bullet blender or something, throw it in the van with you and buy some vegetables at the local market and blend it up real quick or whatever you got to do.
Right. I mean, that's a good one too.
Be better than me, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, be better than me as well, because I would not have done any of that shit. I was like, you know what? Grab my coffee. Like the first two things I grab when I'm about to head out the door is my cup of coffee and maybe my keys. That's about it. One of those things I'll forget to catch. But that definitely something to do. One of the best advice I would give for you is if you haven't done so already, consult your doctor about it. See what your body type needs are, right? Like you can only have this much sodium, this much cholesterol, this much whatever. Do so if you as soon as you can, because having been told this to my face in a very finger wagging manner was kind of not fun, and I don't blame them for doing it that way to me, but I kind of needed that slap in the face because I'm that type. But once you figure out what those are, whatever your levels are supposed to be, have some kind of way to keep track of this stuff, right? Nowadays there's apps for everything. So I mean, like calorie counter apps, your Fitbit, some shit, right? Something to like kind of like, this is how much I have for the day, and you can play around with it, see like what kind of stuff that you can eat, so you're not making such a drastic change in your life. Like, okay, I gotta cut out everything fat or everything red meat. You know what I mean? Like slowly work that way in, so you know just how much you can not more, and for lack of better words, get away with, and not make such a huge drastic change right off the bat. So like in my case, it was easy to switch to mostly fish because I eat that shit a lot, to be honest. But like less tuna, more salmon, or more or less fish, eating other fish kind of diet. And then more so on the vegetables, which was a huge choke down for me for a good minute, but I'm slowly getting the groove of it. And then just do like some kind of accountability check, whether it be your significant other, some friends who are going through something similar, or like if you really want to be bougie with it, like have some kind of a coach or a dietitian like scream at you every so often. There's different ways for about it. I think there's some subscriptions or apps that do something similar to that effect. But I mean, if you need that kind of accountability, by all means. But if you're the kind who can just wake up and like scream at yourself and you actually listen, then by all means too.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to have to play around with it, right? It's not a one size fits all.
Right.
Play around, see what works best for you. And then even if you do find something right out the gate, 6 months from now, you might find yourself, geez, I can't eat any more salmon. I absolutely hate the fish now because I've eaten it so much. So don't burn yourself out too much on one. But as your body adjusts and gets sort of kind of used to what it's eating, you might want to throw a wrench in the gears. Think of it like working out, right? If you do the same exercise all the time, you kind of plateau, or you're only working one one system, but there's 5 other subcomponents, that you could be hitting on. So yeah, you're gonna have to play around with it, see what works for you, try to mix it up so you don't get bored with it. 'Cause that's a number one killer of these kind of ventures is the boredom. Like, oh my gosh, I can't eat plain chicken and rice again.
Oh yeah, that was me. It wasn't just plain chicken and rice; it was plain chicken and brown rice. I don't know what it is, man. Like by the third day, I just feel like yakking just from the smell of brown rice. Those were the times when I was actually trying to eat clean for some kind of weigh-in competition, stuff like that. I fucking hated it. But as MVP said, like play around with it, see what you can do, what works best for you. And if it's starting to plateau out, like seek out some type of help, be it a friend who really knows what they're doing, or some professional help, whichever the case may be. But hey, let us know what you think. Like, what are some tips and tricks that you've done to help yourself eat better or be more healthy? What sort of things are very helpful to you to stay on track with it? Some stuff to kind of break up the boredom or the monotony. Let us know, like in all of our social medias. Let us know on our website, hit us up on our email, or join us on Patreon, on Discord. That's like the best way to get a hold of us and interact with us routinely. We chatted up in Discord like daily. So actually like more than once a day. It's pretty fun, actually. It's good touching base with our patrons. So let us know. Tell us what you think. Hit us up and we can and if we get enough responses, we can probably share some of these in a future episode. On that note, thanks again, everyone. I'm sorry.
Before we end this real quick, since we're talking about food and diet, I gotta ask something. So, little background. The other day, I was listening to a podcast, and the guest on there was an ecologist, and with a specialty in bats. Travels around the world studying bats, their patterns, how they're beneficial to the ecosystem, and to kind of just their intricacies and how they can heal themselves. Right, a bat can break a wing, but how it'll almost form its own cast around the break, so the bat can continue operating almost like it never even broke its wing until it fully heals. So anyways, so he was talking about how, a lot of people in certain parts of the world eat bats. A lot of the Asians, and he had mentioned how the flying foxes, which are the largest bat on the planet, they can get up with like a 6-foot wingspan. I don't know if anybody's ever seen them at the zoo or lived in an area where those are just native.
Mm-hmm.
But they had talked about these hunters in the Philippines hunt these flying foxes and then ship them to your homeland where they're eaten as a delicacy. Now, I know in your homeland, coconut crabs are a delicacy.
Yep. But
I have to ask you, have you ever eaten a bat?
I have not eaten a bat, but I have seen family members eat them. Me personally, the smell really puts me off. Maybe it's the bat itself, or it was the vegetables that went with it. It smelled disgusting. Let's say that it smelled disgusting.
What did it smell like? Just to give me some frame of reference.
Let's see. I can't even put my finger on it, man. Like it has like its own distinct smell, and it's disgusting. That's all I can say.
All I could think of was when I learned that. It was like, I'm going to ask Six this question.
It smells freaking disgusting.
Says no.
It smells disgusting. But I mean, I haven't eaten it, but like I said, I've had family members who have eaten it. And now that you mention it, those individuals were in the best of health. I mean, minus whatever food else they ate, that's high in fat and all this other stuff. But they were right as rain. I don't know if it was because of the bat or is they just because they eat right, but they were fantastic. Now, I can attest too from what MVP said, flying foxes are huge. It's like the freaking Batman. That's how huge these things are. It looks like freaking Batman just freaking jumped off a rooftop. That's how big these things are, like baby pterodactyls. You wanted to say, but that's funny you mentioned that, man. Like there's some nutritional value to bats, and I've never explored it, and I didn't know that they can self cast or build some kind of a natural cast on their wings. But I guess it's also the type of bat too, you know. Like a lot of flying foxes and stuff, they mostly eat fruits, so that's probably why they're in such good ass health. I think there's other bats that can fucking plow a whole freaking like a whole sky's worth of mosquitoes or stuff like that. But yeah, I'm curious about that now. I want to know, like, hey, what's the nutritional value of bats and things that go with it? You know?
Yeah. What makes you choose to want to eat a bat? A coconut crab, I can get on board with that. It's a crab.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, a crustacean, bottom feeder, albeit, but a bat. Like, what makes you look at a flying fox and say, "Hell yeah, give me some of that"?
Right? I'd sooner run from a flying fox than say, you know what? That I bet you that tastes like chicken.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. You know, like it kind of blows my mind. But you know, it's often strange things like that are considered delicacies. You know, but you know, another thing I wanted to touch on before we ended too was, you know, where you're from plays a big part on kind of what you eat, right? A lot of Europe, processed foods have been banned. So, you know, the kids are kind of growing up with different foods. They're growing up with foods like their grandparents or great grandparents ate before all the processed side of it was introduced. We have not reached that point in the United States yet. Very much highly processed foods. And I know a big staple, Six, for you was Spam.
Yep.
And you make some delicious Spam, eggs, and rice, I can confirm. And for me, where I grew up, bologna, right?
Yep.
Potato, you know, potato kind of thing. It's both processed forms of meat, but you know, it's kind of where you grew up on and kind of your income base, sort of really dictated what you ate and we learn our habits at a young age.
Mm-hmm.
I still go for a bologna sandwich every now and again, as an adult. Sue me. You know what I mean? It's just, it is what it is.
Yep. Now, I'm glad you mentioned that, especially for where I'm at. It's a lot of canned meats, especially Spam. Yeah. Now did you mention that? Yeah, that's probably why my sodium level is freaking high as shit too. It's all the preservatives.
but it was a staple, right? It's what got you to adulthood. If you think about it, I mean that was bologna for us. Like you survived. It got me to the age that I'm at today. You know,
very true. And sadly, we have to switch gears on a lot of that to make it to the next cycle of our life. That's sad.
Yeah, God, I hope I make it past 55. But to be honest with you, it ain't looking good at this point. You know.
Oh, well, hopefully we can be examples and help turn it around for each other and for everyone else out there, because I do want to be able to live at least for the next 30 plus years. Hopefully. I mean, we'll see what happens. I mean, if the world doesn't explode by then.
Yeah, Lord knows. Hopefully we can avoid a nuclear fallout, nuclear winter.
Yep.
Nobody wants a metro exodus in real life. I don't know if anybody's ever played that video game, but it's essentially life after a nuclear fallout. So
yeah, let's not do that, please. Let's please not do that. Please let's not do that.
But you know, if any of you listening or know a dietitian, you know, please reach out to us. We'd love to have continuing conversations. Maybe you can help us get on a better path than what we're trying to do for ourselves. You might be identifying some flaws in our plan that we aren't really seeing because, well, we're not dietitians and we like food. But you know, if you are or you know someone who is, you know, reach out and hell, we'll bring you on the show and continue this conversation, because I know, and you know, that the health of aircraft maintainers is, let's just say we're not the healthiest group of people.
Right.
At large, I'm sure there are some, and I can't confirm, there are some super fit, healthy individuals out there, but for a lot of road dogs, it's not so.
Very much the truth on that one. But please, yeah, like as MVP said, like if you're a nutrition, you're a dietitian, or you know someone is, please let us know. We definitely want to continue this conversation, especially for our own edification. Like we want to know ourselves, like, what can I do to not make my blood 50% grease? Because that's kind of what I'm living with right now.
Yeah.
I'm only laughing because I'm crying.
Yeah.
Please, by all means. On that note, thanks again, everyone, for listening. I will catch you again next time.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.